and welcome to this installment of Frank and Mary here in Westborough. If you haven't seen the show before, my name is Art Bergeron. My day job is as an elder law attorney at Myrick O'Connell, actually here in Westborough. But this is not about my day job. It's about my friends Frank and Mary and their goal in life, which is to live in their house until they die and be buried in the backyard. And if that's Westborough, that means right here, not far away, like in Marlborough where I live, or in San Diego where the kids now live, or any place, you want to live here. So the question is, who are the people you need to know? What are the programs you need to know about in order to do exactly that, to kind of live happily ever after right here in Westborough? So most of you folks know my wonderful co-host, Shelby Marshall, who is now just got reelected, a few weeks ago, and that's terrific,
Old news.
The halo's wearing off. Now it's old news and back to business. And to bring these wonderful guests, one of whom we've had before, but his ratings were so high, we brought him back. And so Shelby, whom do we have today?
Yeah, so good morning, Arthur. Great to see you. And good morning to Frank and Mary and friends. So excited that we have our DPW Director, Chris Payant, back as our guest. Welcome, Chris.
Thanks. Happy to be here. Appreciate the invitation.
Yeah, excellent. So I had asked, Chris was on a while ago. I don't recall the exact date of the show, but he talked about our Complete Streets initiative. So given that it had been a while and there's lots going on, Chris and I have recently been in discussion with the Advisory Finance Committee and of course our town manager and the rest of the board regarding upcoming town meeting and budgets and all of that. And Chris, of course, gets lots of really practical toys in his arsenal, so to speak. But I wanted to give him a chance to come forward and just give us an update on what's going on with DPW, because people care about how the streets look, how the sidewalks are maintained, if we're getting new sidewalks, all of that. And as an example of that, it was great to drive down Main Street this morning and see that the streets downtown have been swept. I mean, those are little things that cost money, time, and require the right equipment, but it has such a great feel when you drive down the streets and it's like, wow, the streets are clean. So thank you, Chris, to your team for doing that.
So do you think he did that because he knew he was on the show today?
Well,
you think that was
coincidences just don't happen.
I was out there. Wow,
that was not staged. No.
This place is great.
Well, and it happened to be in front of Westborough TV. That's all I'm going to say. So I don't know. Anyway, Chris,
we just have good timing. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things I've learned about Chris is I love the strategic planning and forward thinking and the way he's, building upon already a great team and foundation of our DPW department. But just love the forward thinking and the progression of what's happening. And so anyway, Chris, this is your time. What do you want to tell Frank and Mary and their friends?
Well, first off, I appreciate the opportunity. I'm excited about what the DPW is doing, and I think we've got a lot on the plate right now. And so hopefully today, in the next few minutes, I can share what's happening and get into some discussion if that happens. So I do have a few slides to show, and I think that helps just in terms of how we communicate, just because it's sometimes easier to see a picture. So we can show that, but at any time. Questions that you all have or discussions we want to have, we can dive off the slides and just have that. But
yeah, let's pull those up.
Yep, I'll start off now and bring up the screen. So some people have already seen this slide before. It's kind of our bumper sticker. We presented a lot of our different sessions, and we use it just to capture kind of what we do, our mission. And so it's identified by three things: deliver essential services, set conditions for the future, and strengthen the foundation. And so today, I'll really focus on the first two, delivering essential services. I'll talk a bit about what we've done, what we're getting ready to do, and how we're doing that. And then conditions for the future, some things we're looking at down the road, some things for our town meeting, and just where we are. So delivering essential services, that's really focused on when you see trucks driving around town doing different things, like Shelby just mentioned, sweeping. Those are all basic services, routine maintenance that we need to do to take care of the town. When we talk setting conditions for the future, there's bigger projects. We have a water system, a sewer system, we have roads, and those have long-term planning requirements. the little symbology there on the right in the center says asset life cycle. So that circle kind of depicts a cycle that we try to follow to help us be predictable, be routine, forecast funding requirements, and that's all about setting conditions. And then the bottom piece, which I won't touch on too much today, but it's super important. It's a foundation of the organization. We have a bunch of great people. You can see pictured there who comprise the Department of Public Works. Actually, one of them, Danny Moynihan, is getting ready to retire. Next week is his last day. His last day is next week. He's been working for the town for 48 years. He grew up in the town. His family was from the town. Went to high school here, all that stuff. And it's really incredible. So we're going to celebrate his retirement in the next few days, but it's important to give a shout out to him because he's definitely done a lot for this community and been a member of it for a long time. So that's our mission. I'll next just talk about some activities we've been doing recently, and I'll jump into some future things and then a couple of very specific items. So over the winter, it's, we plow snow, but we try to do other things as well. And so I'm just going to give a couple of examples of things that with our focus over the winter time. And so you see a couple of pictures here on the left side of the screen. It's a head wall for a culvert. Above that head wall up here and in the left is a road. So this isn't something that most people notice. It's over an embankment, it's down the road, and people don't typically see it. But the problem in this picture is that all of these trees here are growing, and we all love trees, but unfortunately they're growing in the wrong spot because they grow into this concrete here. And then when that happens, they destroy it. And this little head wall right here is going to cost us, over $500,000 if we have to replace it, probably significantly more. And so we want to take care of it. So if you look at the right side, the right picture, you can see there's no trees there anymore. And that's not because we don't like trees. It's because we want to protect this important asset, which, helps us control our stormwater. So over the winter time, we spent a lot of time when there wasn't snow, stopping us, going to all these different locations. And so we were off the road. We weren't necessarily, you didn't necessarily see guys on the side of the road doing work. We were outside of the typical right of way and focused on some of these areas.
Chris, how many, at an estimate, and I know that these vary in sizes in terms of head walls and culverts and all of that, how many do you estimate that you have to maintain in this fashion of some sort across the town?
So we have about 60 culverts. Not all of them have head walls like this one, but a good majority of them do. And we have about 400 outfalls. So you see a drainage basin in the street, goes to a pipe, that pipe then goes underground and outlets somewhere, and it's called an outfall. And some of those outfalls have not necessarily this size, but some sort of wall like this. And so, we're talking several hundred of these around the town.
Well, that's a full-time job in and of itself. If you just think about a calendar year, that's amazing.
Right.
Arthur, you're on mute.
But then the flip side of that is the failure to do that. If you multiply that number of structures, don't take like $500,000, multiply it times $50,000. Suddenly you're at like $30 million in structures that if not maintained, absolutely have to be replaced. You can't just kind of go plug up that hole where that head wall is,
Right.
So the maintenance is so huge in terms of the long-term, the town's tax rate, et cetera. It's really quite something.
And part of us being out, around these sites is, we're typically in neighborhoods. And so we could talk to the residents that live around there and inform them of this. And many times they're not even aware it's there. And, we all are guilty of this, but sometimes we, cut our grass or rake the leaves and we kind of chuck them to the back of the yard. And in some cases, we're potentially burying these outlets. And so, we put a sign up there, we notify the residents that live nearby. And then, once they realize, they're like, oh yeah, I don't want to do that. So, it's communication as well as just taking action on this specific item. So this is an easement. So we have we have water and sewer infrastructure that typically is in the road, but sometimes based on the terrain or whatever exists in the neighborhood, it has to go cross country or through the grass. So the picture on the left, you can see it's just a bunch of vegetation, but there's actually sewer line that runs straight through, like if you're looking into the picture, it goes into the woods. And if we had to get in there to inspect or replace, or if there's a leak or overflow and we have to go repair it, you can see that there's not much ability to bring a truck or really anything in there to do that. So we do what's on the right, which is we go in there and remove that vegetation. And again, I know, especially if you've been in the neighborhood and that vegetation on the left's been there a really long time, you kind of get used to it. And then it's not there anymore and you're like, wow, why'd that go away? But there, I think, and most people we've talked to as we've done this agree that they'd rather us have access to be able to stop a sewer blockage as opposed to have, this vegetation. And so over time, this will, the picture on the right, get some grass there, it'll look nicer. And then it's easy maintenance for us there just to bring a mower in and zip through there a couple times and keep it, passable, but prevent the significant vegetation that you can see on the left side of the picture.
That's,
And
yeah,
so-
no, what a stark contrast, but you can see from the pictures too, that you are maintaining kind of what I would call more mature trees and those that actually look like trees versus some sort of brush tangled mess. So
Yep, wherever we
it-
can, we want to
yep.
save those.
Yep.
And you can see in this picture on the right, this is a sewer manhole right here, and this arrow is pointing at it. But if you follow the arrow back through the trees, that's basically the direction of the sewer line. And so, you don't want a tree growing through your sewer line because that's gonna
yeah, that's for sure.
So the next thing is a project we've had going on.
This is very exciting.
This is our geographic information system. So our asset manager, it's a program the town purchased recently, a few years ago. This is a map. This is zoomed into a specific intersection, but if you could zoom out, you could turn on imagery just like you'd see on Google Maps. This happens to be the intersection of Milk Street, Fisher Street, and Church Street. So I think many people are familiar with that area. So all of these lines on here represent various assets that we have. So you've got sewer and water and stormwater reflected. But I'm going to take some of those off and just show this is our water infrastructure at that intersection. And so what we've been doing is going out and mapping these are valves. You turn these valves, that's how it controls the water flow. And what that does for us is now, this is all, what you're seeing on the screen right now is on a DPW worker's tablet that he's got with him in the field. And so instead of him having to get in his truck, drive back to the DPW, pull out an old file, he can see what he needs to do and it's all right here. This red dot reflects a fire hydrant and we've associated a document with it. So this document is the plan for that street and that intersection. So you can zoom this thing in. I mean, you obviously can't read it right now, but if you zoom it in on your tablet, you can look for specific information you need to find. It's all at your fingertips and it's readily available. Vice, going back, looking through the file cabinet, pulling out paperwork.
Chris, I know we've talked about this in a couple different meetings, certainly as the software was being purchased. It's a whole different thing to see this. I mean, that's just amazing, the accessibility of information to be able to potentially diagnose a problem quickly, or at least, to understand, the other assets you're dealing with in the same space.
And we're really just scratching the surface. I mean, this is a curb stop. So this is what controls the water that goes to this house here. And so you can see what brings up, this is a picture. So when we inspected it, we took a picture. So that way down the road, if we're looking for it, we can't find it, maybe it's been overgrown, we can kind of have some benchmarks as to where to find it. So there's so much more we can do. This is just the start, but it's really great work being done by, in this case, our water division employees, but really across the whole spectrum of the DPW. I'll flip back to, so those are activities that were happening over the last several months over the winter times. And lots more happens, but those are some big ticket things that we're really excited about. So this is an eye chart. It's a bunch of words, but it's just to reflect, all the things that we're doing. And so if you remember at the very beginning, we talked that little circle that described asset management. So we do an assessment. That assessment feeds into a design, and then you do construction, and then you do the maintenance that's associated with that. So we've got a number of activities going on around the town, and not everybody gets excited about a study or an assessment because you don't really see anything from that. We just spend money, it seems. But really, those are the foundations. So these things we're doing here, all of these items that are listed here, some culvert analysis, we're doing a chlorine study for our water system. We've got a grant to do some assessment of our infrastructure to see what the possibilities are for renewable energy. All of those things eventually turn into a design if we want to pursue, and that's, so we're making smart decisions off of, you know, solid research that we've done. A couple of designs that are happening right now. So many people are aware potentially of a main sewer line that we have through town that we did some work on a couple of years ago. We're getting ready to do phase 2 to that. We've got some work on Flanders Road to replace a water main. I think many have heard about recently West Park Drive and the future traffic signal will go in there. So that design work's happening now. Right now, construction-wise, we're installing.
Wait,
Yep.
stop.
Yep.
West Park Drive. That's for my office. You're putting a traffic signal in front of my office?
It's
You're
going
killing
right
me.
there. Yeah. Hopefully it'll be easier for you to get out of your office.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
It's on the other side, on the back side, Arthur, so you'll actually be able to exit your building. No, I know.
I
You'll
was just
actually be
kidding.
able to exit your building, get out to Flanders and head to,
Oh,
yeah,
they're actually connecting it?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
I
right.
always joke with my clients that I can actually walk to Whittier Rehab faster
Yes.
than I can drive there.
yep, that's
Right.
exactly what you're gonna be able to do.
Well, that's huge. That's for a
Yeah.
lot of employees. That's a big deal. That's great.
Yeah, so that's part of a Mass Works grant that the town was awarded. Very exciting.
Yeah. No, it's great.
Just goes to show you, everybody has a stake in public works, inevitably. Thank you.
You might be aware some Mass DOT work that's coming up. So we've got the I-90 bridge that goes over Flanders Road. They're going to be replacing that bridge, and then Fruit Street Bridge, which is off of Flanders, that's going to be replaced. That activity is over the summer. Announcements are already posted about that, and as we get information from Mass DOT, we're sharing that. And then, you know, in May, we've got town meeting coming up, and we've got a couple of things we're looking at getting funding for. So I mentioned earlier the 60 culverts we have. Well, we've got a grant to help us look at all those culverts and figure out how we want to have a plan put together to maintain them. We're also looking at the potential for a stormwater fund. We don't know if that's appropriate for our town, but we're going to look at the options for that. An important one is this comprehensive wastewater management plan that, you know, long name, nobody really understands or cares what that means. But what it means for the town is that if we want to develop multifamily residence downtown or anywhere else, right now we can't, because we can only send a certain amount of wastewater to the treatment plant. So we want to relook our allocation, and to do that, we have to do this study. It's something we do working with the Department of Environmental Protection. So it's not an easy thing to do. It does cost some money, but it's super valuable for the town to get that done. And we have a management plan right now. It was done about 18 years ago, and so it just requires updating. And then potentially the construction of this interceptor line that we're doing the design for now. So those are some things you'll see at town meeting in May.
Chris,
And
can
that
I just ask
wastewater,
one-
okay.
I'm sorry. Can I just ask one question about that? So are you, in terms of your, obviously the sewer is, I remember an old developer client of mine saying the sewer is the mother's milk of developers, you know? So is the sewer capacity, in terms of your sewer capacity, or what you have the ability to process, and most importantly, to discharge into the river, are you pretty close to that at this point? So are you looking at sewer as being a real constraint on your ability to do stuff, or do you have some room there?
It's not a constraint right now for us. We do have some flexibility. As you kind of alluded to, it's all permitted, so we can only, you know, accept a certain amount. But out of that amount, it's a portion. So some is for single family, some's for commercial, some's for multifamily, and that's what we want to realign. We want to reallocate the apportionment so that we can make sure we can do what the town wants to do in terms of development.
Thank you.
All right, this is, I'm getting close to the end here, but this is I'm really excited about this. We're kicking this off in a couple of weeks, but we've initiated this sector maintenance program. So I talked at the very beginning about essential services, and you see us driving around doing a bunch of things. Well, we want to do those bunch of things in an orderly way, an efficient way, and make sure we're touching every part of the town and not just focused on maybe where we know issues have been in the past. And so what we've done is carved up the town in these 10 sectors you can see identified in these red boxes. So this map is actually our watershed map for the town. So inside those shaded areas are how the water flows. And we adapted that map to this sector program, carving it up into 10 sectors. And essentially, we do all these things listed here and much more, but it's the routine things, checking for potholes, fixing signs, cutting, trees that are hanging over sidewalks, painting lines that are faded. And we organize that in a fashion that you might not be able to read it, but it's really not important right now. But there are 10 sectors. We've allocated a week to each one, and we're going to do it 3 times over the summer because it's mapped out. So, first round, we hit every sector, do all these things. And, what we don't get to, we make a list and we get it on the next round kind of thing. So instead of getting phone calls from residents saying, hey, I got a pothole in my street or whatever, hopefully we're identifying those things because we're hitting every road in the town. And ideally, you're not having to call in as a resident to say there's an issue because we should have fixed it. And so that's the way we're looking at it. Now, this thing's laid out in this nice little calendar here. It may not work exactly in that format. We've allocated a week, but maybe we only need 2 days in one section, but we need, 8 or 9 in another. We'll figure that out as we go, and we're just kicking it off. But I think that this will really help us as a department to be consistent about our work, but also I think residents, as we post this on the website, you can see, hey, they're going to be in my neighborhood, around this time. And so hopefully my issue is addressed or I can bring it up at that time. But it just makes things predictable for us and hopefully for the residents as well. And we're excited about it. So
Chris,
cool.
I think Shelby's going to be really disappointed about this because she's not going to be getting any more calls. I mean, she lives for those calls. Oh,
Potholes,
geez,
right?
the thing is all plugged up. I got a problem, blah, 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 right?
I'm sure she'll get the calls.
You're trying to
Hopefully
get
it's
rid
not
of
about
those. You're going to
DPW.
get rid of those calls, right?
No, this is fantastic.
This is fantastic.
I love the predictability. I love the people, you can direct people to say, here's what the plan is, and here's when we'll be out. I mean, they can plan things. So they know that generally speaking, I'm making up like, if I live in sector 8 and, I probably don't want to plan my backyard party around the 2nd to the 6th. I'm just using, I know these aren't exact dates, but right. Like, I might want to push that out a week, to have some folks out or something, that, because you guys might be using chainsaws in the middle of the day or something. So,
Yeah.
I mean, this is great, Chris. And this is that's that strategy and forecasting and planning that I think, you've brought, certainly your talents and leveraging your team. It's so exciting.
Yeah,
Never seen anything like this. I've never seen anything like this. This is really something.
So we'll kick it off here. And we tested it over the winter time to some degree, kind of to pilot, and it seemed to work out pretty well for us, but this will be kind of our full blown. And
I would imagine the team likes it. The department likes it too, Chris, because there is a predictability. They get it. They understand their assignments. They're working in groups, and there's also, I would think a sense of accomplishment as you're going through the areas and you're not having to go back to sector 3, right, to do the same work that you were just out there that for whatever reason, you missed or you didn't have enough time for.
And it keeps us from bouncing, you're in sector 6 and you drive all the way to the town to solve another problem. Well, let's stay in one area, do all those problems, and we'll go to the other one the next day or next week or whatever.
Yeah, that's great.
Terrific. This is really
I have just 2 things left. I'll touch on this real quick, but I know sidewalks and roads are an interest of everybody. And what this shows is there's components to, assessing and repairing a road and a sidewalk. So we have some technical analysis that's been done for us by consultants, and that's what's listed in that box on the left, the road and sidewalk condition. But there's other factors. You got to have money. There might be other projects we need to do, road and sewer improvements that are underground. We don't want to pave a road and then come back later and tear it up to fix a sewer line. So we want to make sure all those things are aligned. Once we do that, that's published in a list. We're getting ready to publish our list for this coming summer. In the future, we'll have this out a little bit sooner in the year, but this is what we're aiming for, to get this list out, let everybody know what's happening, and when they can expect road work to be done. Sidewalks specifically, we know are an interest for the town. We will absolutely maintain the sidewalks. It's not necessarily up to us by ourselves to decide where new sidewalks go and when they go in. That's many other groups. The master plan's talking that now. We've got an active transportation safety committee that talks that. There's other stakeholders that have an interest. So we participate in all those conversations, and as we progress to more sidewalks, we'll be part of that conversation. But that's where we are. The point of this is just to say that we are trying to be deliberate and responsive to people's needs, but at the same time, do it smartly and within the funding constraints we have moving forward. And the last thing I have is just an announcement. So many are familiar, but the town does have a rain barrel program. So, and all that water that's coming off your roof, instead of sending it down the stormwater drain, you could send it to your backyard through this rain barrel. This is posted to the town's website, and you can just go to that link that's listed there, greatamericanrainbarrel.com. And in the past, many people have. So you order your barrel, it's delivered to us at the DPW, and we store it for you. And then when you get the time, you come over, you pick it up, take it home, and hook it up. And they have some other options too that you can purchase beyond that picture there. But it's an annual thing we do, and it just kicked off in the last couple of weeks. So I wanted to highlight that to everybody.
I'm going to get one of those this year. I've never done that before, but I've often thought about it.
Just so great. I mean, we should, you can see why our ratings go up when we have him on,
I know.
He's got a million things. Now, Shelby, I know one of my jobs is to keep watching the time. And I know that before we end, I want you to tell us, or tell the folks at home, is there something about this next week that they should be really focusing on, paying attention to, anything?
Sure. So I want to thank Chris certainly for being on, and there may be some opportunity before town meeting, which is on May 15th, for Chris to come back to talk about some of his the items for DPW on the warrant. But I did want to just give folks an update. Westborough has been approved to be part of a collaborative along with Ashland, Boylston, Holliston, Hopkinton, Northborough, and Southborough to host a regional vaccine clinic. It appears that site will be the DoubleTree Hotel. So logistics and all of that are being worked through. The earliest we'll receive vaccines is April 5th. We don't have any answers yet as to who, when, what, where, why. But if folks are having trouble making an appointment, we're encouraging them to call the state's 211 number. If you just can't deal with a computer, use that number. Anyone that is homebound that might be watching this show, please call 508-871-5111. That's our COVID information line, so that we can make sure that we get a vaccine to you.
We'll ask Aiden to put that on a banner here someplace. Okay.
Absolutely. And then just kind of fun stuff coming up. The senior center is planning on a gradual reopening, which is so desperately needed. And so look for news to be coming out there, and just want to be respectful of our time.
Thank you so much, Chris. This was really terrific. Thanks very much. Thank you for the street light on behalf of all of us on West Park Drive. Shelby, thanks once again for bringing Chris back, and I think he should be one of our star regulars, right?
Yeah,
especially if he's looking for some money at town meeting,
That's
so
right.
he can kind of go push for that. Folks, we hope you enjoy these. The point of this is to really keep you informed about all of this stuff, and to really know the faces behind stuff. I mean, who wouldn't trust Chris Payant once you've seen him do this stuff, right? It's great. And then every time you were going to call Shelby about a pothole, call Chris now. Call Chris. Now you know him. All right. So thank you very much for watching. Thank you, Shelby. Thank you, Chris. And folks, we'll look forward to seeing you on the next installment of Frank and Mary here in Westborough. Thank you.